Hey man, welcome back. It's been a while since I've done a video, and as you know from reading my blog, man, I haven't stopped. It's just, for some reason, I haven't done one. But I'm in the mood, and it's a great place. Now, I'm just back, I'm in Texas, San Antonio to be exact, and I'm at Haven for Hope. And I just flew in from Toronto, where I had a great conversation with nonprofits from Ontario as they begin to get their heads around what they need to do in advance of the 2012 parliamentary elections, the general elections there. And of course, that's what I'm going to be doing in San Antonio tomorrow. I'm going to be talking with nonprofits about the upcoming governor's race. But I stopped by Haven for Hope. You all know a couple of months ago I was at Pine Street Inn in Boston, which was one of the very first programs to attempt to get homeless services together. You know, this idea of a continuum of care. And there's been really cool models around the country, San Diego, Phoenix, Miami Beach. But I tell you, man, San Antonio has built in Haven for Hope this magnificent campus that I've been touring. And I'm here with Sean, and he's given me a great tour. But tell me a little bit, just real quick, man, about the kind of the breadth of services you get going here.
Okay, so Haven for Hope, like Robert was saying, is a transformational center for the homeless. We have centralized case management, so everybody comes in and meets with a case manager who creates a centralized treatment plan addressing all their presenting issues.
Every single person, day one, they come in, they get that, right?
Every single person.
Right on, okay.
Right. So they present with a myriad of issues, you know, anywhere from substance abuse, mental health, lack of job experience, no housing history, bad credit. So what we've done is we've got all the continuum of care partners to co-locate to one central location so they can be referred to those partners to start to work on those issues.
Now this is huge, man, because again, the theory was, can we get all these different groups to kind of coalesce around one place? Can we get nonprofits to partner for greater outcomes? And again, it probably wasn't easy. Was there, I mean, what are some of the hurdles you all had to overcome to get to this point where you've opened up this magnificent campus?
Well, I think in the beginning there was a lot of people saying, who are you guys?
Right.
You know, Salvation Army has been here for over 25 years. San Antonio Metropolitan Ministries, known as SAM Ministries, has been here for over 25 years. So there was definitely...
Yeah, like who are you all to say? You know,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of work had to be done to sell them on the concept and to get them to buy in and partner.
And in effect, leave their shack and come to this new spot.
That's right.
And kind of subdue their individual thing to the greater good, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
They had, they had to leave the old facility behind. The staff had to move. The residents had to agree to move over. So it's been a huge undertaking, and it's still in the process. We've only started.
And again, I'm sure people have their own. They're like, they have their own gig, but to a certain extent, they also left behind that individual. This is the way we've always done it culture, and you all are actually now beginning to, because this is new. But part of this underlying thing is forging kind of an alliance culture, right?
Right. It's kind of like, I think we talk about, it's like you're dating and then you get married and you're living in the same house together, and all of a sudden you start to have to deal with all the annoyances, minor and major, and really learn. It's been an exercise in having to focus on the mission, and because, you know, we all got our own territorial issues, but having to do this working together side by side.
But there's no divorce in here, man. You know, it's funny, man, when I was a kid, one of my cousins called her dad after she got married a month and said, "Daddy, I want to come home." And he goes, "Princess, you are at home." Click. You know, this is Princess, you are at home. There's no going back. I mean, to a certain extent, what's cool about this is not only did you forge this, but the city, if I'm not mistaken, didn't some of the powers, the mayor, start to say, this is the way it's going to be?
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't like the hammer didn't come down, but there was a gentle guiding hand, right?
Sure. Yeah, our board chair, Bill Greehey, had this idea, I think it was close to 4 years ago now at this point, that he wanted to invest the money he'd made over his career somehow to help San Antonio.
Right.
He got together with former Mayor Hartberger and said, you know, it's on my heart to help the homeless. I just know that much right now. Do you agree that something needs to be done? And he said yes, and from there they formed a task force that started traveling around the country looking at the best practice models and trying to infuse those different models.
So
here.
4 years from talk to this.
Actually, yeah, exactly about 4 years.
Wow, man, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And so, last part that interests me is you're talking about social enterprise. You're talking about revenue generation. I know actually the food bank of San Antonio has a training kitchen, a community kitchen, just like the DC Central Kitchen here, that is actually built out enough so that they can, in event of another Katrina, they can contract with Red Cross to provide meals. But there's going to be a few experiments like that, right?
Yeah, and we're just sort of touching the surface with social enterprise, but definitely one of them is the culinary training school. They cater to a lot of the big events all over town, and that generates revenue for the San Antonio Food Bank. And we've just also started to explore the idea of generating funds through the client tracking system that we've developed. as an idea, as a way to sell that system to other folks, for us to better help them track how they are doing their mission, as a way to generate operating funds for what we do here. Yeah.
Now, what Sean is in charge of here, which is interesting because there's another friend of mine, Sean Stanner-Stockton, who with a bunch of us were on the Alliance for Effective Social Giving, and we're talking about how to replace the old intellectual kind of albatross of low administrative overhead with something brand new. And one of the things we're talking about is, again, outcomes, measurable outcomes, and this is Sean's forte. So, I mean, you know, your job is to actually not only measure the obvious things, but to really get deep into this idea. Like there's a chapel, you can't see it, but right over here. But again, how can you measure the effect of a chapel in an environment like this? You know, is there a monetary equivalent or something that allows you to take into consideration not just people who got a job and how much, or how many days that they've been clean and sober, but really deeper, more esoteric conversations that have really been almost the delta or the missing kind of ingredient in these formulas.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I just gave a talk in St. Louis about accountability and how do you track what you do. And what I found is I used to be a social worker. I started as a case manager. That if people don't see the direct benefit of what they're tracking, they're not going to have any interest in doing it.
Right.
So we've tried here to sort of, you know, work from the end user backwards, from the case manager, from the intake worker, from the food line service worker, and say, you know, what is it that you do? What do you want to see? You brought up earlier the point of, you know, if someone's volunteering, you know, are they seeing the benefit? Do they understand the full picture? We really want to give people an opportunity to give input into how systems work, and for them to say when it's not working, when it is working, for them to in fact own it and be a part of it, so that they, you know, are more inspired to want to track what they do. So that then, of course, the obvious outcome is that we can report to all the various stakeholders, you know, how well it's succeeding. But if the person at the very front line doesn't understand and see the benefit, you know, we know that we're not going to be able to get those high-level reports working.
Cool.
So.
Well, you know what's wild, man? This is kind of cutting edge in many respects, but it's also, you know, there are cities that want to do housing first. You know, this is a very unique model. It's an expensive model, but that's why the measurements are so cool. A lot of, again, the jury's out, but I got to tell you, man, if you're in San Antonio, get anywhere close, come over, Haven for Hope, tell them Robert sent you, look up Sean, he'll give you the King's Tour, and I'll see you down the road.